So we'll get started right now. We're going to just go through a quick presentation and then get to know the panel a little bit, to a little bit of a round table. Then we're going to get started with the pitches. First session is focused on aerospace, and then the second session is going to be focused on defense. A little bit of background about us for anybody who's new to the program or needs a refresher. We're Deep Tech Showcase. We're an ecosystem for deep tech, and we're passionate about getting more deep and also dual use technology to market because of all the challenges that any startup has. We're all familiar with it, especially in an economy like we have today. These deep tech companies, in order to make the impact that they can make on the world, they need to be pushed and they need to be helped. And that's what this community is about. We built this ecosystem about 1 year and 8 months ago with a vision to have a place where deep tech startups could be discovered, and they could also discover potential partners for their long journey ahead of them. And therefore, the members of the showcase split up between investors, tech scouts from corporations, as well as tech scouts from government, as well, and startups, of course, that are developing the deep technology. Anchoring our community that we have, this ecosystem that we have, are monthly events on different industry theme. Of course, today is aerospace and defense. What we do beyond the events themselves is we listen to the stakeholders and we get a feel for what they're looking for. We listen to the pioneering startups, get an idea of what they're looking for as far as partnerships go, around the funding, to their TRL level, and other important factors in order to create a match when it's relevant, open the door, and then from after the door is open, the startup and the stakeholder take it from there. We have a packed calendar every year. This is we're in the second half of this year's showcases. Aerospace and defense is today. Next month is energy, and it should be a fantastic event. We're toying with the idea also to make it a 2-day event. We'll keep you updated. Advanced materials, then space, autonomous systems, and then ending the year on December 8th is going to be an invite-only event for AFWERX winners, which is an Air Force and innovation program, and also for Air Force stakeholders. So that one's going to be a little closed. We'll open it up for other DoD members as well, but it will not be open to the greater public. This is us. My name is Josh Barone. I'm the Managing Director of the Tech Showcase. We're joined today by Brian Markowitz, who's our Network Strategist and also our Director of Events. We've got some amazing people also behind the scenes that won't be joining us today. Talking about the state of funding today, just when we look at it in a quasi-recession or a full-on recession, depending where you are on that debate, we still have angels, we still have VCs, and of course we have CVCs, which are more evergreen funds. And what we're seeing is that now more than ever, the impact that federal non-dilutive funding can have, where it funds R&D through grants or contracts, is as essential today as ever, and as it was also, by the way, in the beginning of the COVID-19 outbreak. When you look at the programs, there are always programs open, and right now is actually great timing. We have the AFWERX, the Air Force Open Topic, their SBIR program. We have the National Science Foundations, which is essentially an open topic, though they do have specific broad categories. Is open right now. The Department of Energy has a fantastic SBIR program. SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research, and these are non-dilutive funding initiatives from different U.S. federal agencies. The EPA, or the Environmental Protection Agency, also has an open program, and Department of Agriculture is, I believe, they're just set to open this, or it's just open by now. When we talk about SBIR, it's usually split into 3 stages. A phase 1 is an early investment POC stage, which can be as little as $50,000 and as much as $275,000. A phase 2 is to help you get to a prototype, whether it's for a government use case or if it's for your commercial use case, and that could tend to be more substantial funding between $750,000 to $1.6 million. And then there's option for a phase 2 extended, phase 2B, and different programs, a subsequent phase 2. And of course, the purpose of, at least with the DoD, NASA, and Department of Homeland Security, the purpose is to lead to a phase 3, which is getting a U.S. federal client with hopefully multi-year sole source contract. Eligibility requirements, as you can see in the left corner. We're talking about close to $4 billion annually, which is invested only in small businesses. The larger pool of funding is much greater. It's about anywhere between 30 to $60 billion annually available for R&D for the private sector. But SBIR is a fantastic program because it's exclusive for small businesses, meaning they don't have to compete with the bigger players in the market. Taking a look at, for instance, the NSF's SBIR program, we see their phase 1 funding is $275,000. If phase 2 is up to $1 million, and then they have an enhancement, which is a match funding program for $500,000 as long as you bring in $500,000 from a private sector match. Department of Energy, also surprisingly, you would think the Department of Energy is very specific in energy savings technology, but they view the world of energy as being more holistic than that. And there's quantum topics, there's topics on cybersecurity, there are topics connected to machine learning and AI, and of course the more or what you would typically associate with the Department of Energy. Fantastic program where the phase 2 can be up to $1.6 million. Then there's the Air Force's open topic, which you mentioned before, called AFWorks, where the purpose of this, like any DoD funding, is to lead to a contract. A phase 2 here is $1.25 million, and the phase 1 here is it's a micro grant. It's supposed to be there in order for you to prove that there is interest within the Air Force in your technology, and to get an MOU signed by an Air Force stakeholder. And this one has a very close due date of August 9th. Just a word about, as we continue to talk about the Air Force's program, we run a unique program internally, which is ongoing, to help companies that are applying for phase 2 to go and get a memorandum of understanding signed by an Air Force stakeholder, which will open up an eligibility to a phase 2 fund. And you'll understand that the context here in aerospace defense is this is as aerospace as you're going to get. We have 3 companies here on this page, and we're going to go through a couple companies. One is these companies all share in common that they're seeking to apply for a directed phase 2 of $1.25 million from AFWorks, the Air Force's Open Topic Innovation Program. And what they need, some of these companies already have a memorandum of understanding, but take a look at that if you're an Air Force stakeholder or if you're an investor interested at an early look at a really breakthrough technology. We have Indigo, we have Fisna and BPOP sensors. I'll let you quickly read it with your eyes to get a glance at it. There's also Skyway, Nova Space, Monarch Holdings, Genesis, Raycom, Monumental Gaming, Flash Scientific Technology, and Lithium Power. These are fantastic companies doing really interesting things with relevance, and we're actually going to hear from a couple of them today. So our event is going to kick off. We're hearing the pitches starting at 1:20 Eastern, so we've just got about 9 or 10 more minutes. We're going to be hearing from Fisna, followed by Temper Inc., then followed by American GFM, and then lastly for the aerospace is Nova Space. That's the 4 companies pitching in aerospace. After that, we're going to be hearing from our defense pitches. We're going to be hearing from Monarch, Summer Robotics, Gsi Technology, and the Lithium, and then we're going to say our thank yous and farewell. Meeting our panel today, and we're going to hear a quick round robin from everybody who can. I think I'm missing, Brian, I think I'm missing one person on our panel, so we'll just mention that in a second. We have Darren Burrell from Veteran Ventures. We have Gus Dummel from Boost VC. From MITRE, we have Matt McGregor. And I don't think Dana's going to make it today. We have 2 people who aren't making it, unfortunately, today. Ian Eschen from United States Air Force, Max Stitzer from United States Air Force, Cassandra Carruthers from Upheaval Investments, David Mendelson from HEICO, Artyom Studzianek, it goes by Stud or Art, from United States Air Force, Donald Gansberger from United States Air Force, Corey Anderson from Radiance Technologies, James Bolinger from the Air Force, Warner Paradis from United States Air Force, and Rafael Perez from Invest Puerto Rico, and Sarah Pearson, who from the Defense Innovation Unit, will actually not be able to join us. She had a family emergency, and she said to wish the startups good luck and that she'd be happy to be in touch at a later point. Brian, I think we have one more person also joining the panel today. Who is that?
David Brewer.
Oh, and also, right, that's right. We have David Brewer, who's a great addition to the panel, last second edition, and everybody will get a chance to introduce themselves. So without further ado, I'll stop sharing my screen and we'll get a chance to meet our panel. Maybe we'll take it across the board and we'll hear from James Bolinger.
All right, guys, good afternoon. Sergeant Bolinger, Advanced Air Force Base Public Affairs. I've got backgrounds in journalism and public relations, as well as innovation. And I work for undergraduate pilot training, leading 2.5 out here. And we're looking for things involving student-centered learning, immersive technologies, access to content for ease of access to content within clouds, and human performance optimization. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, James. Max Ditzer. Welcome, Max.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Josh. Brigadier General Max Ditzer. I'm the Deputy Director of the Air Staff here at Headquarters U.S. Air Force. Background in logistics, aircraft maintenance, and the sustainment enterprise. And I have the ability, if we connect, to help put you in touch with the right portfolio and stakeholders within the Air Force at the enterprise level. Thanks.
Thank you. David Mendelson.
Hi, everybody. My name is David Mendelson. I handle acquisition due diligence and investment due diligence for HEICO Corporation, and we're a global aerospace and defense company, roughly 65 subsidiaries around the world, and about 2 billion revenue and 17-ish billion market cap. Subsidiaries are involved in niche, high IP, high reliability components and the aerospace and defense markets. So we're happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. David, that's a pretty wide sweep for aerospace and defense. Anything you want to specifically hone in on today?
I'd say it's a good question, and it's wide on purpose for diversification purposes. I'd say, probably not as applicable here, but we're most well known as the largest manufacturer of third-party spares for the commercial aviation aftermarket. It helps save airlines money, and hopefully all of you as airline customers. We also do a lot of repair and distribution in the commercial aviation space, and then in the manufacturing and other subcomponents. That those technologies are all across the board, from crash-worthy fuel systems and helicopters to battery backups and DC to DC converters, antennas, miscellaneous areas.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Cassandra Carruthers, welcome.
Thank you. Great to see you all. Some of you again. I'm Cassandra Carruthers, an early stage venture capital investor focused on pre-seed through Series B, a lot in North America, some global investments across sectors in deep tech. So deep in frontier technologies, hardware and software.
Thank you. Awesome to have you here. Rafael Perez.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for Deep Tech for inviting me, Josh, Brian. I'm Rafael Perez, the Business Development Director out of the East Coast base in New York for Invest Puerto Rico. We are a nonprofit economic development organization. It says invest on our name, but we don't actually invest in companies. But we do facilitate local companies, particularly in the tech space, and those are in the aerospace that might be looking into expanding into a Caribbean hub like Puerto Rico. We've had success over the last couple of years of Honeywell, Lufthansa, and Pratt & Whitney, who have been built their R&D, MRO facilities there, and we welcome many more. So, my job is to attract companies in the aerospace and tech. Most recently, we had a company out of Boston in Aptima, which is a artificial intelligence company. Part of the reason why we're here is to get in front of later stage companies to hear what they're looking to do and how we can help them succeed in a market like Puerto Rico. Good to meet you all.
Thank you. Gus Domel.
Hey everybody, I'm Gus. I am on the investment team at Boost VC, based here in San Mateo, California, so just south of San Francisco. And we are an early stage deep tech VC fund investing across a wide range of things in the kind of deep tech space, including what we're talking about, stuff we're talking about today.
Awesome. Awesome. Next up is David. I didn't get a chance to introduce David because we didn't have a picture of him up on the website. We added him last second, he added himself, and we're so happy to have him. I'll just give you a quick background. David is goes by Dave Brewer, and he is from the Air Force's A57 Innovation Solutions and Disruptive Technology Liaison Officers. Thanks, Dave, for having you here. Would you like to talk about what you're looking for today?
Yeah, great. I appreciate it. Thanks, Josh. With half A57 Air Force Futures, we're doing the connection between strategy and plans and industry. We're trying to sync up where there's opportunity for the DoD to advance innovation initiatives using industry partners. And let's be honest, right? Industry is ahead of the military in a lot of ways. So we're accepting the fact that we are behind and we can't do it indigenously within the services ourselves. So we're reaching out to industry partners. I'm also associated with the Kelly Johnson Innovation Center out of the Michigan Air National Guard, where we're making innovation operationally relevant at the tactical level. So we're looking at a diverse number of areas, multi-domain operations, looking to include information coming from the space domain into the air domain for tactical applications, digital transformation, human machine teaming. It's really fairly endless in the work with the two offices that I'm accompanied with. So again, half A57 Air Force Futures is connecting strategy with the operational environment at MAGCOM's COCOMs, whereas Kelly Johnson Innovation Center, we're linking the tactical environment with exercises, prototypes, proofs of concept in the fields involving direct connection with industry. So thanks, Josh. I appreciate it.
Awesome. I'd like to point out, just like the government can't do it by themselves, the startups can't do it by themselves either. So it's a good match. I'm glad to have you here. Darren Burrow.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Josh, appreciate you and the team offering this opportunity up. It's great. I am the founder and president of Veteran Ventures Capital, and we are a VC firm that invests in veteran-owned and veteran-led businesses. And about 80% of that is in the national security and defense sector. So happy to lend a little bit of an eye on these companies and paying special attention to those that have veterans in leadership on the cap table. So we do that and mainly support in the security, logistics, and aerospace areas, typically Series A, and happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Darren. How about Corey Anderson?
Yes, thanks. My name is Corey Anderson. I am a recently retired CW5 warrant officer from the Army, Special Operations, predominantly in the robotic and autonomous systems world for aviation, supporting our SOCOM partners in the intelligence community. I currently work as a systems engineering technical advisor, or what they call a CETA, which is direct support to the Army G2 ISR task force. The ISR task force is somewhat like the cross-functional teams that were stood up for Army modernization, but with a specific focus on intelligence collection, gathering, and dissemination. My role in that is to identify technical solutions that might support some of our modernization efforts within the government and within the intelligence community, and make those link ups with the appropriate partners. Over.
Great. Awesome. Happy to have you here, Corey. Ian Nation.
Hey, sorry for the no camera, but I'm stuck in traffic a little longer than I thought I would be. But I'm up in DC, kind of working a lot of what A57 mentioned, supporting all their efforts and working to bring in emerging technologies for government problem sets. One of the added benefits of the area that I'm in is working with our European partners, both with the NATO Diana side of things, as well as our Five Eyes partners. And so now happy to be here and look forward to hearing the presentations.
Awesome. Fantastic. Forgive me if I missed any of the panelists. I guess we'll get you on the next, between the sessions. We're going to get started. So awesome. Happy for everybody who's here. We're going to start the pitches right now with Fisna.
Hi guys, good afternoon or good morning or good evening, depending on where you are. Fisna is what we're going to talk about is 3D data and unlocking the potential of 3D data. Fisna is completely focused on CAD files, scans, and how to manipulate them in the 3D world. Our team is composed of a visionary CEO that started back in 2016 with a very intelligent algorithm that's patented. We have executives from Google, mostly engineers in a group of 65 people with lots of PhDs. And the team you have here online today is Kevin, Senior Account Executive, myself, background in IT, and also we're very lucky to have Andy Lloyd on the team. He was a Deputy Director at the Air Force Sustainment Center. The best way to show you and explain what we do is to literally show it to you. So this is the Fisna Enterprise software. Software as a service, runs in the cloud. And what it allows you to do is store 3D information, search on this 3D information that can be just a bolt, or it can be something like, for example, the brake system of an aircraft. I'm using a browser. I'm not using a CAD license of any sort, and it's very, very easy to manipulate. So what can I do with this? Well, if I give Fisna a picture of an object, like for example, this stopper over here inside a plastic bag, if that object exists in 3D, Fisna will find it for me. And at that point, I'm in the realm of 3D world where I can look at the object, I can do matches to see if I have other similar objects. I find a suitable replacement that is in stock. I can also look for what else is associated to that object. And for example, I find over here an assembly that happens to have that same object. So I can search based on 3D, I can search based on 2D, and once I found the object, I can even figure out exactly where it fits. So I'll stop here in terms of demo, but hopefully that gives you an idea of what we do. Where can you use this? Well, in supply chain, if you're out of stock on a part, we can find something similar. It might have a completely different name, but we can find it, and perhaps this is the difference between being grounded or being on the air. As you saw, I can take a picture of an object and tie the physical object to the digital asset and all its metadata. And I can also find suitable substitutes by simply intersecting two objects, two assemblies, and Fisna will tell me exactly what they have in common or a similarity index. We see this being applied in the legacy world, where we're trying to connect the physical and the digital. And once that connection is made, you truly have access to all the digital data, which may influence maintenance, repair, overhaul procedures, or the ability to detect if a part can be 3D printed or not by simply finding it in the database. What's prevented all of this from happening is the fact that we've been dealing with 2D information instead of 3D information. So we always always use a proxy to refer to 3D objects as opposed to using the actual 3D object, which is really a rich, untapped source of information. We've been working with the government. We also have good traction in the commercial sector. We've applied our technology in proofs of concept across many sectors of industry, from power distribution, heavy industry, oil and gas, procurement use cases are very common. And what we're looking for are MOUs, letters of support, so we can take Fisna to the next level. We can influence how you maintain a clean inventory, how you optimize your supply chain, how you can improve on procurement efficiencies, because everything in the world is related to a product. That product was designed somewhere, or it can be scanned, and therefore we can play and work with it. That's it from us. Thank you for the time. This is our contact information. Questions?
Okay, we'll open up the floor for questions. Anybody has questions, just can raise their Zoom hand, and we'll start with the first question first.
Maybe I'll prompt people for a question over here.
I think you got a couple questions already, so we'll just jump right into it. James, you can start.
Hey, how's it going? When I was covering stuff for with the Marine Corps, they were really big into this. This was actual need that I know the Navy and the Marine Corps were talking about a problem for storing this kind of information. I've got some context there I can probably put you in with, but I think on the Air Force side, there's definitely some interest. I don't know who to talk to about that, but this is really cool. But I know for sure the Navy needs this. So
Great, thank you.
To point out something for is where your MOUs go and your assignees. You can have multiple from different DoD members, and that supports it. Of course, you have to have a primary use case with the Air Force, but it's good. What James is saying could be very helpful. Go ahead, Gus.
Hey, yeah, I'm just curious about kind of scaling this up in the long run. And if you could just speak to that a little bit, like the kind of longer term 5-year plan, for example.
Yeah, so we're expanding. We have a public website called thanks.com that is used by thousands of concurrent users and millions of objects. It's the same core engine behind the scenes. It's where we use a lot of our AI to learn more and more about 3D objects. So our plan is simple, it's low-hanging fruit. We find duplicates in large inventories and help people reduce parts. We find a design engineer that's halfway across designing something that already exists, and we stop that from happening. There are statistics that show savings of $28,000 per SKU that you can prevent in a large company. And so I think we're in good shape to scale. What we would like to do next is take a 2D technical drawing, for example, and map that to a 3D object, or take an object, any object, and say, hey, this is 3D printable. And those are things that are continuing in our R&D.
Cool, very cool. Thank you.
Go ahead, Raphael.
Hi, this is Raphael here. This is exciting, Ralph. I like the technology here. I'm just 2 questions. I'm be curious to see how this would apply to other verticals like the life sciences industry, pharma, which are sitting in legacy systems. You touched on something that's very important. I'm also curious to see how does your financial model work? Is it through ordering inventory, through some of the data you have compiled, and those 2 questions I have, I'd be curious to learn more about.
Yeah, any area, so the life sciences question, any area that deals with products, it's 3D information, we deal with it. We've done studies with molecules, trying to find patterns there. And actually one of my colleagues came from the life sciences space, and we're deep talking to some medical tools suppliers. The second question, I'm sorry, it escaped me.
What's sort of been your financial model and in projection here? Yep.
Yeah, so we're funded by Google Ventures, by Sequoia, and by Taiga Direct. Our plan is to connect with large companies and sell API calls. So every time you make a search and you match, it's a little transaction. And we also have to keep an eye on the number of models that are uploaded, because that is also associated with costs. So there's a value there as well associated with the contract. Thank you.
Awesome. Last question from Dave Brewer.
Yeah, and probably a follow on to that. I'm wondering from the Air Force standpoint, we're looking at agile combat employment or being able to operate in austere locations, especially under attack. So contested logistics and resupply is huge. With that being said, from an aircraft standpoint, many of these aircraft use very specific parameters for a lot of their parts. Have you contacted or ran into any roadblocks with any of the manufacturers of aircraft, Boeing, General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, where they may be able to share tighter parameters on the 3D aspects of parts so that they could be quickly disseminated with more accuracy through a 3D model out to an austere location?
So we've got good traction with Boeing and Airbus, but the strategy here has been to go to a company, a large automotive company, for example, and get them to influence their suppliers into providing the CAD files. Because once you've got that, it's really gold. Also influencing, especially in the DoD and Air Force, influencing the people who are signing contracts into requesting that CAD file with the parts they're purchasing. So starting a new trend so that we can connect the dots. But we're a small company, so we definitely need the help, the support, and the funding to continue to grow the technology and market it.
Great, thanks guys. I appreciate it. That helps. I think there's room for growth there and collaboration between the large contracting vehicles with manufacturers and with what you guys are doing. That's great though. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Fisna. And be sure to stay on. We have a couple of questions in the chat. We're going to move on to our next presentation, which is Temper Inc. And Bill Dijkstra is going to be presenting. Bill, we got you here?
Yes, here I am. Can you see my screen?
We can. Ready for you when you're ready.
All right, great. Okay, so hello, my name is Bill Dijkstra, and we are excited to share with you a game-changing technology to produce composite parts at drastically reduced costs.
Bill, I think you muted. You're going to have to unmute again.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Temper's focus is to drive innovation by using magnetic fields to elicit behavior in tooling and materials to produce parts. Our current focus is to combine the speed of induction heating with the thermal accuracy of smart susceptors with 3D printing of tooling shells and master die set to speed time to market and drive down tooling costs. Component processing can be achieved anywhere between 120 and 950 degrees F. Problems with composite tooling today are time required to fabricate the parts is long, even with automation. It is expensive, capital and tooling costs are high, and the process is very labor intensive. Temper's solution, combining the temperature accuracy and heating speed of smart susceptor technology with replaceable 3D printed tool inserts with a master die set. It has everything. The ability to heat from room temperature to between 120 and 1,000 degrees F at plus or minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit in 45 seconds, and drives out tooling costs by just replacing the tool insert for part to parts, or only the portion of the tool that touches the part. So to recap how the temperature control works. In a traditional heating systems, energy is input into the tool from a fixed point at X amount of energy for Y amount of time, leading to uneven heating of the tool surface. With a smart susceptor, the tool surface automatically stops heating because the reaction of the magnetic field and the chemical composition of the tooling surface. To look at this in another focus, the smart susceptor tool surface can only heat to a predetermined temperature, where it becomes non-magnetic and stops heating in that specific spot. And in areas where the material has not reached Curie, continues to heat until the area they reach the Curie temperature, and then that area stops heating. We again look at tooling costs. Our proposal in a nutshell for this proposal is to demonstrate the ability to go from a part design to a completed tool in 8 days, not 8 months, and making 50 parts per day afterwards. The need for thermoplastic material due to its material properties and the increase in part production The market for thermoplastic parts is large, currently standing at $22 billion today and growing to $31 billion by 2025. In addition, tooling does not know the difference between a thermoplastic and thermoset plastics. It only knows the temperature. As a part of this proposal solicitation, we will make a thermoset tool insert as well and combine it with an air bladder to produce a thermoset part in a true out of autoclave condition. The market and growth rate for thermoset materials is similar to the market for thermoplastic materials, essentially doubling. Applications are varied from military applications to commercial aircraft to consumer products such as hockey sticks and even automotive. The few key members of the team that will drive the technology forward into the marketplace: current and past customers, intellectual property, over 100 patents. That's not 100 applications, that's 100 issued patents. Says a lot of time and effort has been spent developing this technology and that it is ready for the next step.
Bill, 30-second warning.
Pardon?
30-second warning.
The big ask. MOU for AFWEX 22.4 solicitation or letters of support and partnerships either at home or in Europe. Questions?
Oh, perfect on timing. Well done, Bill. Okay, so open up the floor to questions, same as before. Questions for Bill and Temper Inc. Go ahead, David.
Thank you. That presentation was very interesting. It's a new area to me, although we do a significant amount of composites manufacturing, so it's somewhat applicable. Your commercial success slide was interesting and listed a lot of impressive companies. Could you tell me about some of those projects that you've worked on and what stages you're at with them?
We have over 100 projects that we have completed with the Boeing company over the past 15 years. And most of those projects have been in thermoplastics. We have done some thermoset projects. Our project sizes range from 75,000 to 2.5 million. We've also done a project with Northrop. We're currently working on 2 projects with the Army. We completed a welding project where we would do thermoplastic welding for NASA. And there's some other projects that we've done with the DOE, but those were in years past, so we didn't put that one out there.
And are you in any production applications with Boeing or any of those guys?
We do not do production. What we do is we do thermoplastic, we do magnetic research, and we're now at the point. And so what we would do from a commercialization standpoint is we either make tools and equipment, which we have a line of repair blankets that we're using induction, which again has the same properties of very accurate temperature control to where you can't overheat a repair. And we have a line of that product, and we also have a line of product where we make these blankets for debulking. But we don't do production.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, well, time for another question for Bill. Do we have one? Okay. So we'll move on to the next one. Bill, there are a couple conversations to be had in the chat right now, so stay on and make sure you're active there. Thank you, Bill and Temper Inc.
Okay.
All right, next up, pitching is American GFM. Okay, we have, I believe it's Frank who's pitching. Is that correct? Frank, you're gonna have to unmute. Frank, you're gonna have to unmute before we get started.
Let's try this. Does that work?
There you go. We're ready to go when you are.
So, sorry about that. I'm Frank Elliott. I'm Advanced Initiatives Coordinator for American GFM Corporation, Chesapeake, Virginia. I am, for the last, since 2000, I've been in charge of and responsible for a program relative to equipment and processes for composite repair. Next slide. Next slide. About us, as you see here, our company builds from very, very large equipment, been in business since the 1940s. And in most cases, it's from very large equipment to automated systems. For originally, for many years, it was for manufacturing metal components. And for the last 20 years or so, it's been very strong in the area of composite material manufacturing and parts. Next slide. Next slide. Hello. Next slide. Okay, dealing with composite repair, these are problems that are realistic. American manufacturers are developing larger composite aircraft components. Wings and fuselages cannot be easily moved to repair shops. Many of these processes are currently done by hand. Most of them are, in fact. The lack of digital continuity and that means that we have no, since we have no digital information, you cannot put it into automated system, and therefore it's very labor intensive. Next slide. Losing this, what's going on here?
I think we have a lag on Brian's side.
Okay. As you see here, these are some manual processes, current practices and challenges. And for the most part, composite repair is done manually. And these are some of the areas you see that are being done manually. Again, as I've stated, there's no digital data that results from these activities. They are inconsistent because they are manual, and therefore becomes a big challenge. How do we overcome those things with some type of automated system? Next slide. Next slide. Okay, go. Okay. Our solution, a portable composite repair system. You see here a drawing showing the system and a lift system, which can put this essentially on at any point on the aircraft, on top of a wing, under a wing, on the fuselage, etc. And that's our way of preparing for composite repair on the aircraft. This is a 3D drawing which kind of shows what we're doing there. In many cases, the NDI may have already been conducted, and we may have that data from previous checking. And but we can also include NDI as part of our system. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. Our project core technology is automated processes utilizing digital transformation of composite repair technologies. Basic technologies include laser-based surface digitization, NDI, CNC milling to remove scarfing to remove the defective material, and ultrasonic cutting of replacement plies. Additional associated processes are laser-based inspection for FOD and to verify fiber orientation of replacement laid-up plies. And of course, the lifting arm system that you saw in the picture there. And also training in all aspects of from the beginning to the end. So it's a complete system with complete training for operators. Next system. Next picture. Next slide. Okay, the sequence of scarfing tasks, placement of the scarfing unit, switch on the power, digitize the indicated defect and scarf repair area, select a predetermined template, which we have developed many of them already. Optional check of the scarfing surface, then the tool setting, the automatic scarfing, and disconnection of the scarfing unit. And then, of course, the complete repair and inspection, which is not shown here, but verification of the repair also is included. Next slide. Next slide.
Now we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, but we're still a little bit over, so just try to wrap it up in the next 30 seconds.
Sorry about that. Okay. Competitive advantages are all in one solution. First of all, identify the damage, create the needed composite repair, remove the defective material, complete the repair process, and then verify the repair was properly done, which is very important. Next slide. This is a list showing the team, the GFM team, American GFM, Chesapeake, Virginia, WSU, NIAR in Wichita, Kansas, Aberystwyth Training, Reno, Nevada, Field International in the UK, Align Vision in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, and Gsis Quality Excellence Center in Michigan. Next slide. Okay, the roadmap at our ask. Roadmap is that to develop the prototype ready for customer demonstrations. And the target date for that is Q4 2023. I should say at this point that almost all functions that are involved in this have been developed for our previous development of a stationary system. So it's primarily a matter now of turning those applications into being conducted by a portable system. Market feedback and pre-orders, we're interested in discussing the PSCRS system with prospective customers. Next slide.
I think we're actually going to have to call it here, but I think this is your last your slide anyways.
Okay, as is shown here, Brad Fair, who's Vice President of American GFM Corporation, is very much involved with me on this. We've both been with the company over 30 years, and it's been a very good teaming. And I believe that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Frankenstein. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Yeah, we're going to have for the next presenter until Brian's internet stabilizes, we're going to have the next presenter share his own screen. So with that, we're going to move to questions. So any questions we have for Frank from American GFM? Also, just a quick question. Can you talk about partnerships and about your company foundation? Where is your company going in the next couple of years, and specifically where you're coming from?
First of all, the company's been in business since 1941, headquartered in Austria, and in the early 70s, American GFM was founded and facility formed. We're a major supplier in the world of composites with a lot of equipment, from ply cutters to routing equipment and so forth, and have developed and delivered 2 major systems that are among the largest composite manufacturing systems in the world for the 787 program. I was part of that development, and it's been a very successful. Where are we going in the future? We're going more and more to automation and actually adding technologies to what we already have, including various laser applications, from depainting to laser perforation holes for very high quantity small holes, as in an engine to sell acoustic panels. So we're going forward very progressively in several areas at this time.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Frank, from American GFM. Any questions for Frank, you can continue in the chat. And maybe Frank, drop your information there so anybody in the audience can be in touch with you. Thank you very much. Next up is Novaspace, and pitching is going to be Christopher Allen. Chris, are you okay with sharing your own slides?
I am. Absolutely. Thank you.
Go for it.
Yeah. Share. All right. So I'm Christopher Allen. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Novaspace. We provide professional development training through digital asynchronous online experiences that are quite game-like, exposing students and employees to the wide variety of core foundational skills necessary to be a space professional. And we've taken essentially the best of what human behavioral science and educational psychology has to offer today to create a rather robust and complete program. Let me start by showing just a short little teaser video that will give you a sample of the types of things that we offer. So our program, as you'll see in these screenshots, covers some of the major components, including orbital mechanics, space mission areas, the space environment, the electromagnetic spectrum, and it weaves them into long stories that give students the opportunity to practice using that foundational knowledge in the job that they're expected to do. And along the way, making decisions, not only as an individual, things like what sensor to put on a communication satellite, or working towards building new and complete solutions across the space economy. Where within their professional life cycle would these foundational concepts come up, and how will they impact the types of decisions that they'll have to make on the job? And part of the reason why we're tackling this part of the industry is the enormous skills gap and talent shortage that exists for all kind of both commercial and inside government. We did a survey not too long ago, maybe just a couple months ago, of open positions at some of the major players, folks that you would recognize. As you start to drill down into each one of these organizations and the open positions that they're offering, they're all looking for talent in a specific domain that also has 5 to 7 years of space experience. Well, there aren't that many people just floating around that currently don't have a job. And as we've been out in the market, selling our solution, licensing it to organizations, we've uncovered through the HR department that they're essentially just poaching from each other. And so we've got this increase in the cost of talent. There's a serious talent shortage, and we're not getting to a point where we're building the type of talent pipeline necessary to support all of the initiatives that exist. The current space training solutions that exist are almost all in-person lectures. They rely heavily on presentation of concepts. There's really no hands-on component in the bulk of space training that exists today. With classroom training, of course, there are low throughput constraints in which if you don't have enough instructors, you certainly can't get enough students through. And the cost of sending people pre-pandemic and current and post-pandemic is still going to be expensive. The fuel cost of sending somebody on a plane to put them up in a hotel and to pay for their meals while they're out learning is awfully cost prohibitive. And in a lecture presentation environment, students are often forced into a paradigm where it's focusing on acquiring enough knowledge to pass a test rather than practicing the types of skills that are going to make them confident and competent performers when they actually get on the job. Training for a lot of organizations is viewed as a cost center, but that's because in most cases it's done ineffectively. Training really is about changing behavior and installing the types of skills that organizations are hopeful are going to be their secret sauce to executing on whatever business challenges in front of them. When it's done well, training has been shown to really increase profit margins in a significant way. If you look at what talent today is looking for when they're out interviewing companies that they might like to work for, they're definitely voting with their feet, saying, if you don't have high quality training, I'm not going to stick around. And in fact, we know from great work by Russ Hill in the Great Resignation, that if folks don't have high quality training as they're onboarded into a new role, they really start looking for their new job within the first 90 days. It needs to be a point where people are coming on board, they're feeling confident that they will be successful at this company in this role, and training has a lot to do with that. The other thing that I'll point about why training isn't necessarily a cost center is when someone leaves, if that person has responsibility inside the organization, at least at the commercial level, it's estimated that it costs about 9 months of salary to replace that person. So in that first scenario, I was talking about all those organizations that are looking for talent out there, and they're poaching from each other, maybe using headhunters that are charging 20% of first year salary. You add the hiring costs, the ramp up time, any onboarding that you did before that person starts being proficient at the tasks in front of them. The moment that they start to get some responsibility inside the organization, you have to start the rehire process all over again. It's going to cost essentially almost a complete full year's salary to go ahead and replace that person. So high quality training, something that really works and does change behavior and install new skills in people, is extraordinarily important to whole organizations today. As I mentioned,
just be wrapping it up, okay?
Yep, sure. As I mentioned before, our core focus today is on the 6 main pillars of the space industry. Our current curriculum covers almost everything that exists in Space 100 and 200 offered by DoD. It's scalable, it's licensable for organizations, and it's using proven paradigms. Wrap this up. As we continue to build our catalog, we've identified a great number of areas in which we're starting already to build additional curriculum. We have over 30 hours worth of training that exists today. Here's a short subset of what we're off building. And we have some extraordinary testimonials from high quality organizations and users who have already started to adopt our solutions. We're focused on ramping up ourselves and building in new product. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Dave, you got your first question. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. A good presentation. Yeah, I know that the clock is tough to be up against. I know there's a lot of information on those slides you wanted to cover. With that being said, so you contacted when you say that it assimilates a lot of the material from Space 100 and 200, have you already been in contact with U.S. Space Force for their formal training schools?
Yeah, U.S. Space Force, at least a small section, has purchased licenses from us, and they're starting to use it as a replacement, as is the Navy. And they're purchasing from us currently today through a credit card, and we're working towards larger licensing deals to provide essentially a complete force solution, where this can be used either in conjunction with in-person material that's offered today, or as a replacement as the bottlenecks and constraints of in-person learning continue to rear their head.
Gotcha. So are you in communication then with the 319th Combat Training Squadron?
I believe that we are. I'm not personally in those talks. Our kind of core leadership is made up of a number of former Marine Corps officers who are, I can put their slides up here, who are instrumental in doing many things for the Marine Corps as they transition their Marforce space over into Space Force, and we're well connected there.
And one last follow-on question, and then I'll pass the baton off to the next question. Are you looking at partnering with any universities or education institutions to build out certificate programs? Because I think that the U.S. Space Force, in my work with them, is looking to be creative in their education so that it isn't just a U.S. Space Force only designation for what they're training to, but rather it's an industry accepted.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a close relationship with ACE, the American Council on Education. They have taken a preliminary look at our material, and we're waiting here this fall to get time with their subject matter experts to have it reviewed for what would be the first step towards our curriculum being accepted by an accredited university, so that it could cover for college credit. We also offer a digital credential that for each individual student maps back to the skills that they practiced during their time with us. And that's something that's portable. So no matter what organization, or if they take it individually, those are skills that they can port to anybody's LMS and really point back to, I do have these skills and I have demonstrated them in a significant way.
Got it. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Thanks for answering all my questions. I'll drop my my email in the chat function. I assume that you got access to it. If you'd like to connect a little further and talk through some of this, I'd be more than happy to guide you towards a couple of names over in Space Force and a few other organizations. So
really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Just check chat.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing. I know my time's short. Our curriculum has been certified by the Space Foundation. So our overall professional credential is something that they put their stamp behind. We've taken subsections of our material that's offered through their new university over at the Space Foundation, and we are partners with Keystone Space Collaborative, and also offering our platform for them and all of their members as a way to access professional development.
Go ahead, Raphael, with the last question.
Yes, thank you. Christopher, I mean, you're touching on something that's very important right now in the economic development space here. I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, and talent is king, right? That's, the biggest benefit we could offer incentives to prospects that we're talking to is our talent pool. We have over 80 universities. I don't know if you knew that, around the island, which is pretty big. And there's one particular, actually, there's a few, University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez, which is the pipeline of talent for NASA. I love to make an introduction to them. I mean, we have to bridge those gaps. There's other organizations like other universities like Polytech University, and then Engine 4, more of a maker space. But I think it's something that you're solving. It makes my job easier, because obviously there's people wanting to rescale. And one of the interesting parts that we're also working on in an organization that is dedicated to actually retraining veterans in the cybersecurity, which I think is another great idea as part of your digital course, which I'm mad you thought about it already, is a company called 7 Eagle that is training veterans in the cybersecurity space. And they're actually incubated within the Polytech University campus. I mean, there's a lot of ideas, and I think that you could venture from having some conversation bless you, some type of conversation with these universities on the island.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Would love to talk more about that. And there are a number of comments here in the chat that I'm also following along. Don't want to take up too much more time. There was a question about our revenues to date. We are publicly traded, so I can only give information that we've reported through the OTC currently to date, and happy to pass links to that offline.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that wraps up. Thank you, Christopher and
Yes.
Space. And that wraps up our aerospace division. We're going to move on to our defense, but first I want to get a chance to introduce two panelists that joined us. We have Warner Paredes, and we also have Matt McGregor, where Warner is from the United States Air Force, and Matt is from MITRE, and also is a reservist in the Air Force. So if you don't mind, Matt, how about you introduce yourself first?
Sure, yeah, Matt McGregor, and yes, like you said, I'm a reservist and about 22-year program manager as a civilian military on the Air Force side. And came to MITRE a couple years ago, so working innovation and small business, bringing small businesses into the DoD innovation ecosystem. So I'm happy to be here today.
Awesome. You will speak for just a moment, Matt, if you don't mind, just what you're looking for in general.
Yeah, just looking to see sort of what different solutions, commercial solutions that are out there, and we have some internal MITRE resources where we try to connect to sponsors that might be able to meet that need. So that's kind of the perspective I'm looking at. Is if I see something, I will connect it with our larger team anyway. But if I see something in particular, I'll try to make that connection to the sponsor.
Awesome. Happy to have you here with us. Warner from the United States Air Force. Warner, are you with us? There he is.
Hey, sorry, I'm driving back from day 2 from a little military exercise, but I am, everybody calls me DC. I'm the section chief and innovation manager at the 53rd Air Traffic Control Squadron. I work closely with the Liberator and Robbins Air Force. I'm an AppWorks fellow, design warfare grad, working with Cibers multiple times, specifically ultra-light deployable systems that help the warfighter.
Yeah, we're hearing that every other word. We'll have to get Warner when he gets more stable connection. So we're moving on to the defense part. We're going to be hearing from 4 companies. First is going to be Monarch, followed by Summer Robotics, Gsi Technology, and Lithium. And we'll get started right away. So pitching for Monarch, I believe, is Joe Kufari. Joe, you ready to go?
We are ready.
Go for it. I think you can share the screen because we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty before. Go for it.
So I'm Joe Kufari. I'm the CEO of Monarch. We actually started this business as a reaction to some troops that were coming back from overseas a year ago, and they were telling us about some feedback in regards to the new thinner ceramic and poly plates that they were running. And they're doing a fantastic job of stopping the penetrating event from happening. But what was happening is as they were taking rounds, that energy was continuing to transfer into their body, and they were having everything from spleen damage to kidney damage to long-term internal body injuries. So we looked at the problem and said, okay, we think we've got a solution for that. So what we did is developed a pad that sits behind today's armor, whether it be a poly, whether it be a ceramic, could even be steel. And what happens is those armor plates do a fantastic job of creating a non-penetrating event. Fantastic. But what's happening is as those plates become thinner, the energy transfer is becoming greater. So we created a pad that sits behind it that not only transfers and disperses the energy away from that blunt force, but also creates a much better fitment for those that are wearing it. So especially as more and more females are entering the different parts of the military establishment, it fits better. It keeps it from rubbing on your collarbones. So we did a bunch of scientific data on that because we're a bunch of geeks here. So we wanted to look at it and not just try to solve a fitment problem, because that's not the hard problem. The hard problem is the energy problem. So we came up with some really cool stuff that we've filed a bunch of patents around, and we were able to reduce significantly the impact force from different rounds. As you can see on the slide, it goes all the way from 94% down. This is a significant reduction in force that's coming into your body. It's the difference in taking a knee in the fight and continuing to fight, which can make for a much better outcome to your day. So we've been in business a year. We did a seed round last year, raised $1 million, hired some employees, started signing up distributors across the United States, UK, and into South America. We're a material science. We're actually, Monarch's a holding company. Dark Matter's our material science. We started making money first half of this year, hired more employees, brought on some more distributors. We've got some major companies now selling our products across the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, South America, and Australia. And then, as any good company will do, we are third-party vetted out by the NTOA, the National Tactical Officers Association, and we were gold rated, which was actually the highest score they'd ever given out to that point. So we have a bunch of different categories that we're taking our material science out of. We're not just about serving our folks in the military. We're actually a consumer goods company as well. When you can start off by stopping the impact of a round, going into Pop Warner football is a little bit easier. How big is the market for what we're doing? Pretty damn big. $6 billion addressable market. We plan on doing about $116 million over the next few years. We manufacture everything right here in upstate New York. Our materials are also all Berry compliant, which means the folks that are shipping stuff overseas, we don't have that issue. The folks that are having issue with supply chain, we don't have that issue. We manufacture using veterans, veteran-owned facility. Veterans are actually working on the lines. We have a very close relationship with the Army Special Forces, and we use folks and keep them in a team environment that helps them transition out of the roles they are currently in the military. We have a bunch of partners, a lot of logos that you'll recognize, different branches of the government, large distributors. So this is a dual use product. It's for use in the military and law enforcement, as well as into consumer goods. We established our distributors based on different verticals that they were serving so that we didn't have overlap. So what are we doing with the Air Force and our government traction? We were recently presented into the USAF Innovation Board. These are being run by select operators around the world. We've been doing this for over a year. The feedback has been nothing but positive at this point. We like to think of this as blue collar technology. I'm not sitting here pushing AI or ML or SaaS models. This is good old fashioned, simple technology that sits inside almost every kit that's being worn by a military person today and makes for better outcomes at the end of that day. Our gratuitous slide against all of our competitors. Why aren't our competitors doing this? Because we beat them to the market and we put IP around it. So now we're going to be working with all those companies that were our competitors because we can make a better armor product together. Large markets that we're going after. So when we look at this as an investor type of opportunity, these are large markets. You're talking $6 billion in our existing product market. We've started our Ruck Market for all the rucksacks for the folks that have carried those very heavy bags around with them. It's about the materials that we're using that make the load that's going to stay the same weight feel lighter. It's about insoles that make your shoes the same weight, but make your feet feel better at the end of the day. And sporting goods, knee pads, shoulder pads, and everything beyond that. So the use cases that we have specifically for the Air Force, just about to wrap up. Our Gen 2 product is a hybrid bonded product. We're doing insoles and inserts for the boots that airmen and airwomen are wearing. We have a full coverage kinetic energy dispersal suit, which is a t-shirt that you wear under your kit. We have helmet liners coming out, and we also are working on improved medical transport because we have very strong vibration reduction. We're going to do about $106 million over the next few years. Our management team's been around a while, other than Connor, who's the young guy on the team, but is also probably the smartest. And we built a board of advisors that are our door openers. So folks that have been in the special forces for many years, folks on Homeland Security, and folks within the Army itself. We're doing a $7 million raise on a 30 money pre-valuation. We've already got over $2 million committed. We raised $1 million previously with a 500K convertible on top of that. So we're solving a problem that probably seems pretty straightforward today. You don't want holes in you. But the problem is you don't also want that energy transferring into your body to give you long-term injuries either, whether they be physical or psychological, or the economic consequences that come along with those injuries, or the consequences that come along with having someone injured in field and having to have 2 people care for that person to get them out of the field. Our solution is super simple. Stop that kinetic energy from coming into the body and disperse it away from it. So we're looking for MOUs, letters of support. We're continuing to raise on our Series A investment. We're starting our Gen 2 hybrid bond product on Monday, and the full coverage kinetic energy dispersal suit that has integrated cooling to keep the warfighter cool when it's 134 in Afghanistan and 40 degrees at night. It keeps them warm. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Questions? Go ahead, Raphael. I see you open your mic.
Hi, Joe. Nice presentation, by the way. I'm just curious here, just kind of understand at the last slide about your Series A. What would be the intention for the money you're looking to raise?
Sure. So we're growing the company so we can go into multiple products. So we're also going after non-dilutive, obviously, with the Air Force and the AFWorks programs. We're getting pushed by those different military branches to go faster, as you can imagine. Our government wanting stuff faster, who would imagine that? And that's the situation we're in. There's a lot of products that can use our materials. One of the things that over the last 2 weeks that we have seen is that there are companies that have moved and outsourced their product development to parts of Asia that are no longer compliant with requirements. And now we're getting inbound phone calls. We have currently 6 full-time employees trying to build a $100 million revenue business. So as you can imagine, we've got to grow the team substantially here over the next few months to keep up with demand.
Yeah, 3 key takeaways: double the size of the team, expand the manufacturing capabilities, go after brand and IP licensing opportunities into those various alternative verticals.
Okay. I'm glad I asked because I don't want to steal the thunder out of upstate New York, but obviously we here in Puerto Rico being a U.S. territory, we're starting to see a lot of this incoming nearshore of Asia operations. I want to, obviously historically we've been making uniform vets. We have tons of them on the island, and I'd be curious to see what your projection is for any growth. Happy to have a chat offline.
Sure. Awesome. We just checked and Googled it, and you're a little bit warmer than us in the wintertime.
Awesome. Time for one more question if we have one. Okay. So thank you, Monarch. You can be in touch with them over the chat and move up with their information. I think they already put their information in the chat, but you can put it in again just to make sure everybody has it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Next up is Summer Robotics, and presenting is Skylar.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep, ready to go.
All right, great. Well, thank you for inviting me to the Deep Tech Showcase. I'm Skylar Cullen, CEO of Summer Robotics, a Silicon Valley startup. Summer Robotics has developed a perception pipeline grounded in direct 3D modeling of the world to enable the next generation of machine vision applications. Summer Robotics, the machine vision technologies are bumping up against bottlenecks in challenging real-world applications. The current vision paradigm using cameras and point clouds results in buffering and transmission overhead and a fuzzy view of objects and their environment. The presence, shape, and behavior of objects is poorly understood and comes highly delayed through a long sensing and processing pipeline. This uncertainty and delay will prevent the deployment of highly valuable services like robotaxis and delivery robots, much less general purpose humanoids. Relying too heavily on passively illuminated cameras, which are the dominant sensing input to machine vision algorithms, leads to unreliable performance due to fundamental sensing and modeling issues, resulting in many corner cases, some of which you can see here on the slide. We have re-examined the fundamental assumptions about 3D perception and have developed a new pipeline. Summer Robotics captures surfaces in motion using laser triangulated event tracking. Low power lasers continuously sweep across surfaces and are tracked in 3D by a constellation of event sensors and algorithms. No buffers and always on illumination means that data is turned into object shape, type, and motion information at the rate of the scan. Our whole perceptual pipeline is currently 4 milliseconds long, which is 100 times faster than standard multimodal perception options. This demo shows the technology in action. 2 people are being segmented, tracked, and classified with updates occurring at the rate of each new laser swipe. Without waiting for data to buffer, we can update our knowledge about the presence and behavior of a pedestrian in milliseconds. The top view shows the segmented objects. Every new laser swipe updates the position, size, and velocity of the object. The center bottom view shows that each person is being classified as a pedestrian using our geometry and custom AI algorithm. Oops. Consider when this low latency will be important. For example, we can shorten the distance that an autonomous vehicle needs to perform an evasive maneuver to avoid hitting a suddenly appearing pedestrian from 10 meters to under 4 meters. Every car, robotaxi, and delivery robot needs to incorporate our technology into their perception solution to safely navigate the dense urban corridors. Triangulation delivers exceptional surface precision at short distance. Our solution can support running many triangulated sensors and lasers with low compute and low latency, without requiring the system to be rigidly mounted. This high precision and low latency will enable new, highly valuable robotic manipulation, navigation, localization, and inspection capabilities. The non-rigidity will enable highly novel applications such as coordinated drone swarms. The company has been earning revenue through sales of software and hardware evaluation kits. We have customers across several markets actively testing and in some cases creating prototype products based on our SDK. We're discussing an exciting set of upcoming applications with customers in a variety of markets, including underwater obstacle avoidance, robotaxi and delivery, legged robots, 3D inspection for manufacturing, and even gaming and metaverse. This is all a testament to the wide applicability of our core technology. We're also working on an AFWERX proposal and would like to connect with Air Force stakeholders who see applications of our technology. And we're also interested in connecting with additional commercial customers. And for investors, we're planning on raising a Series A round in early 2023. The 2 co-founders are both technologists with experience as executives at large technology companies in the SF Bay Area. We also have a talented team of engineers building the product. And thank you. I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, a great presentation. It's very interesting. And while you highlighted that you were looking at the Air Force, I believe it was, have you looked into contacting the Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Office at the DoD level?
Not yet. I'd love to be put in contact with them.
Yeah, I can help you with that. I think that that's a great program since you're an AI-backed software company that operates through hardware. I think they'd be interested to see what you're looking into to see where there'd be DoD level applications that would be more at the joint level, right? Don't isolate yourself to one service. And then the other question I have for you is, what training sets are you using to grow the AI or the ML algorithm? Are you diversifying it in more complex environments? How are you training the AI or the ML up?
Yeah, so for the AI portion, We use a combination of our own captures. Currently, it's in indoor environments, but whether it's indoor or outdoors actually isn't super consequential. And then we're also employing simulation tools for other environments that are more difficult to capture data from. And then actually, we can leverage already existing data sets from, for example, 3D sensing applications. So it's kind of a combination. As we build our solution and apply it toward more specific use cases, we'll be able to gather data. Another interesting thing about our technology is it requires far less data to train than, say, for example, camera-based technologies, because we pull out the exact object shape, position, size, and we don't have to control for any ambient issues with like colors and contrasts and that. So we're essentially required 10 to 100x less training data.
Gotcha. The last follow on, and again, I'll pass it on from here. Do you have any human machine teaming where you've got the ability to have humans train the algorithm as you go through fairly dynamically, or does it have to be done in the back office with contained data sets?
So for understanding, for example, if you were in a manufacturing context and you want to train the system on, say, some new component, we're developing the tools so that you could literally just spin the component in front of the system and then register that as a new 3D object. So in terms of like online training, there's definitely going to be a component where you can have technicians out in the field doing a transfer learning essentially for specific new components coming into the system. There's other aspects of our system that could be trained online as well, but that's one that we're specifically focused on.
Great, thanks. No, I appreciate answering my questions. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, great. Matt and Corey.
Yeah, I was curious if you had talked to, yeah, once again, you mentioned the Air Force, but Army Robotics is doing a lot of work on their RCV light and medium type of vehicles where, you know, this is important, right? The ability to sense and detect. Have you had any discussions with them or?
Not yet. I would just say that in general, we're just starting out our discussion with the various branches of the government and military. So we're very open to introductions to the various different branches right now.
Okay. Yeah, I can connect with the program manager there and see if they have any interest.
Excellent. Thank you.
Go ahead, Corey.
Yes, sir. A couple of questions. Obviously, this is for defense as this form is described. So I've got a couple of questions on the technical side with regards to the wavelength of your lasers. Is it in the visible spectrum? Or can I see them under nods? What nanometer wavelength are you guys using for your lasers?
So the current evaluation systems that we supply to customers, if they ask for hardware, which some do not, we supply them with 405 nanometer Blu-ray lasers, very low power. They can create very precise points and actually it's difficult for humans to see. It's on the edge of your visual capabilities. However, I would say that for any application, our technology is essentially agnostic. So you can go across the UV to the IR spectrum. We don't care. We don't rely on anything other than a continuous sweeping of the beam. And so it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be encoded. As long as the sensor we're using has a decent QE and can actually receive the spectrum back, then we're fine. So for us, we're very flexible when it comes to the wavelength.
Okay, excellent. The other question I have is you put out the SDKs and I'm assuming because of the hardware that you put this on, you've got some specs. What's the minimum processing requirement? Is it running GPUs? Is it like an Xavier board or a Jetson TX2? What level of GPU required to run it?
So for example, the demo that you saw going all the way to classification, everything before classification, right now we're just running on laptop CPU cores. We haven't actually bothered to take some of the code that's very parallelizable and put it into parallel hardware because we were just rapidly developing it up. It's very low compute requirement. So in the case that you mentioned, Xavier is definitely one of the embedded systems that we're planning on deploying on. We think we could probably go even lower as we optimize the system. We're relying on a very sparse signal. So, and since we're not processing redundant collections of pixels, we can get away with much lower compute.
Awesome. Is it a containerized software, or does it require a specific operating system that would eat up the whole board?
So right now it's in a Docker. We support basically any flavor of Linux, and we could expand it up to other solutions. But right now, we just expect our customers to deploy our Docker on Linux. You get updates from our cloud instance, so you can just pull down new releases in a very simple way. If you take our hardware, it's all just components that are USB connected into the laptop that you choose or the desktop. So it's a very kind of simple setup and easy deployment.
Thanks. Would you private message me? I'd like to follow up. Thanks.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you, Skylar and Summer Robotics.
Thank you.
Next up is Neil Sampson from Gsi Technology. Hi, Neil.
Hi there. Hi, everybody. GSI is a U.S. headquartered public company with high performance, low power AI technology. For 27 years, we have developed the fastest and most dense monolithic SRAM, and now that includes rad hard, rad tolerant memory offerings. GSI has over 115 patents evenly between our memories and the Gemini Associative Processing Unit, the APU, a compute in memory AI parallel engine like none other that we'll focus on today. The amount of unstructured data around the world is increasing every minute. It is a huge challenge to find the needle in the haystack of the data and becoming a big concern for military space and all big data industry scenarios. GSI's compute and memory APU integrated circuit finds that needle today. We have the chip, we have algorithms and hardware ready to work with the DoD, aerospace, and industry to solve today's problems and future computation needs. The APU is designed to deliver real-time solutions for diverse AI applications. The unique architecture features parallel data computation with 2 million bit processors. This massive in-memory processing reduces compute time and power consumption in a scalable format. Since the APU processing is linearly scalable, we can provide a hybridized edge sensor and on-prem inference, for example, solution that excels at big data problems. GSI's APU use cases are shown here. This could include real-time tactical airborne and national satellite imagery and video. Our compute and memory technology takes data from sensors and then processes where the data lives in memory without additional latencies. For instance, it could generate SAR pictures, do image correction, object recognition, and target detection in place. Results from processing or previous object detections can be vectorized and maintained for a revisit at a redetection or future processing need. The SAR and ATR applications leverages the APU's massive in-memory parallel processing, which is ideal for edge locations with real-time processing capability, where rapid, accurate responses are critical and limited only by the existing pipelines. Our APU processes all pixels in grid for each pulse in parallel versus the CPU's approach of working pixel by pixel, pulse by pulse. GSI's saw our benchmark versus leading competitors show in a one-use server form factor, we have 87x better performance factor. Our dense registration is ideal to leverage our compute architecture with a reference image in the APU and then executing a sliding algorithm on another image to find alignment used for GPS denial regions. The GSI's re-identification again takes advantage of our architecture to process camera sensor images through a neural network, creating image fingerprint vectors that reside in their entirety in our APU hardware. Adding to the last slide, with these fingerprints in memory, our change detection algorithms can in near real time define change and perform what now scenarios such as ATR. GSI has hardware offerings from the APU chip at the bottom to boards with single APUs and then to servers, providing a complete scalable option. GSI has previously captured an SBIR phase 1 for an AI ruggedized single board computer for space applications. We are asking today for partners that can support and advocate for a MOU or letters of support to continue developing our cutting edge solutions with our uniquely parallel processing solutions. Also, we are asking for introductions to partners who can envision our solutions in their integrated systems. Thank you. Here's my contact info.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Neil. Perfect timing too. First question from Corey. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. My question is, this was kind of unclear as to whether or not this was a hardware or a software activity that you're describing. Can you talk to that a little bit? Are you using commercially available boards to do this with your own software solution, or is this a hardware activity?
This is our hardware solution. If you look at the bottom, the heart of this is our APU ASIC that we have created, which is a compute in memory solution. It has 2 million bit processors, as I mentioned, but we have that for the hardware solution, and we combine that with our software, and we have a complete ecosystem with the compiler allowing you to program this in Python. So what we're offering is this accelerated parallel computation with our AI algorithms, as well as compiling, so you can create your own secret sauce, your own algorithms.
Okay, so no, thank you for the clarification. When I was looking at this, the APU is your hardware functionality that's put into these different servers. So, okay, thank you. I apologize.
Yeah, it's probably my fault not making it that clear, but thanks for the question. That helps.
Go ahead, David.
Thank you. Could you talk about your customer base in a little more detail?
Sure. This is a great slide to show we're a dual use solution. From the servers, we have servers right now in AWS, so we can do Elasticsearch and OpenSearch, as well as we have the middle section, the single boards. Those are boards that go into workstations and servers as well. We have a board right now that is in AFRL Kirtland for evaluation and for algorithm programming at the Air Force. Our customers are Tier 1 defense. They are, I'm also pursuing another AI ruggedized space application for this product as well, with Space Micro. currently.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Neil. That's Neil Sampson from Gsi Technology.
Thank you.
Next up and last, but certainly not least, is Lithium, and pitching is Roy.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time. I want to start with 3 points of interest. Earlier this year, the Inspector General found that almost every single nuclear reactor in the United States has counterfeit parts in it, specifically in the safety-related aspects, which, as a civilian out here is a little disturbing. Earlier this week, the CNN published a story that the FBI found that Chinese tech in U.S. systems, in and around U.S. systems, both existing and proposed, can actually disrupt nuclear arsenal and communications. And then finally, last month, a bunch of CEOs around the country in the United States have been charged with peddling Cisco counterfeit boards. These boards are in existence in all U.S. military, DoD, and other hospitals, etc. systems. This is a problem that Lithium is tackling. And instead of showing you PowerPoint, I'm going to show you what it is that we do. So I'm going to flip my camera around here. Let me just see how I do that. I don't have the turn the camera around. That's nice.
If you're going the non-traditional route, go all the way. Flip your whole thing around.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Looks like I'm just gonna do. Give me just one thing here. It'll just be the angle. Oh, here we go. Okay, so you should be able to see me now with 5 pieces of metal here and a metal in front. Yeah, can someone acknowledge?
Good.
Perfect. So these could be anything. In this case, these are 5 or 6 actually pieces of metal that came off of the same CNC machine. There's no serial number on them. There's no barcode on them. There's no identification of any sort on these. These are literally made to be identical, all within the same tolerances. I'm going to pretend, for sake of argument, that this is a fake part and that these 5 are actually original parts that were made for the purpose of U.S. Air Force, Department of Defense, our customers. It doesn't really matter. And what I'm going to do is treat them like fingerprints on a human being. I'm going to create a baseline, and then I'm going to find which one is which. To create that baseline, I basically use an iPhone 13, take a picture, and give it some metadata. In this case, I'll call it 1. And we'll go 1 to 5, left to right, and that's pretty much the process of certifying or inducting these items into our product. I'll call this one 2, and I'll just keep going between 1 to 5. Now, in an industrial case where our customers sit, instead of me doing it manually, we have an automated camera, off-the-shelf automated camera that sits on their production line. Every item that comes off is photographed, and then our system creates a digital fingerprint out of it. Again, with no markings or anything like that, it just finds various aspects that I can explain later if you want on the surface of these pieces and creates a digital fingerprint. Once that digital fingerprint is in the system, I can then basically start to identify them. So I finished registering these 5 items, and they could be 500,000, they could be 5 million, it doesn't really matter. And now I could be at the end of my production line, I could be at my supply chain, shipping, receiving, I could be at a point of use or distribution, I could be about to install this on a plane or a missile system or whatever it is, and I want to make sure that I have a real part, not a fake one, that I have a legal part, and that I have the right part. Those are the 3 types of counterfeits we deal with. Fakes, like what we talked about, Cisco or nuclear reactors. Real parts, but that aren't authorized. So a factory just made extra and is trying to distribute it for cheap. So you have no warranty, life, etc. And third is a real good part, except it's going to be used wrong. I'm going to install the screw on the left wing as opposed to the right. I'm going to install the wrong board in a radar system, etc. And so that's what we avoid. And so what I'm going to do is I'll just pick one of these and check them. Let's do number 4. I'll move this fake one aside. I'll put number 4 in. I'm going to take a picture of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it, register mode. I'm going to ask it to authenticate. And immediately comes back with this is authenticated, and it identifies it as part number 4. Now let's make sure we weren't lucky here and that all of them are part number 4. So let's take part number 2 and do the same thing. I focus, take a picture, I ask it to authenticate. It immediately comes back with this is in fact an authentic part, and it's part number 2. Now at this point, when I'm authenticating, I can also add some track and trace data. So I'll put in here, use for testing. So I'm going to put that in, and basically what that means is that every time I authenticate this specific part, that comment of use for testing will come out, which means I can add any data I want to these parts, instructions, warnings, guidelines, etc. Now let's make sure that my fake part doesn't get through the cracks, because in fact, in this case, it's a real part identical to these others. It just wasn't inducted into our system. I took a picture of it, I asked it to authenticate, immediately it comes back with not authenticated. Now, this is nice in an environment like this, but things happen in the real world. So I want to take back number 2 that I said before, if you recall, we're going to use for testing. So I focus, take a picture of it, ask it to authenticate. It immediately comes back with real, yes, it's number 2, and here's my instructions, use for testing. So let's move all of these aside, and things in the real world happen. Things get scratched, and so I want to make sure I can still identify them even after they get scratched. I focus it, take a picture, ask it to authenticate, and even with the scratches, and you can see them on the image, it's still identifying it as number 2. Now, other things also happen. Let's take a marker here and play with that a bit, because dirt, grime, etc., also gets onto the system, and we'll do the same thing. Take a picture, ask it to authenticate, and immediately comes back with authenticated, and it's number 2. And so no matter what you do with it, you can bang it around, etc., we will identify the system. So that's the end of the demonstration. Any questions? I will comment that we have customers right now, all in the civil world, if you will, manufacturers, industrial, be it computer board manufacturers, etc., using our system, gold bar manufacturers protecting their gold with our system. We are a Series A startup, so we're now, we just closed our Series A, and we're looking for additional customers that we can help on the DoD side.
Amazing, amazing. We're gonna open up the floor to questions, but can you first tell me what's written on the other side of this paper? The entire time I was thinking of a magic demonstration. The only thing.
So it is not magic. This is physics and math. Basically, what we're doing is that we are finding on the surface of the items all of the elements of tolerance of manufacturing. You guys may be aware that within the manufacturing process, there are always tolerances. The same machine cannot make the same product over and over again identically, which is why in mechanical engineering or manufacturing engineering, you give it tolerances. I want this to be 1 millimeter wide, plus minus 100. Why? Because it can't be done. Now, when we look at it, it's equal. When a quality camera looks at it, it finds that it's great because it falls within those tolerances. What we've been able to develop are the algorithms to actually look at that surface and find those very items that make the surface wrong. Those are unique, they're random, and we create a digital fingerprint out of them, thus being able to compare and identify one to the other. So this is not just about authentication, it's identification, which is really where the key is.
Amazing, amazing. While you figure out how to turn around your camera, Corey and Matt have questions for you. So Corey, go ahead.
No, absolutely great. That was a very cool demonstration, by the way. My only question is, like you said, each CNC machine or each tooling is going to make it slightly different. How do you, if you're using 6 CNC machines in the same facility or disparate facilities across the globe, how do you ensure that those parts are coming from those facilities, which seems to be one of the crux of the problem?
Yeah, so what we do with our customers now, for example, is that just like when you saw me numbering the parts 1 to 5, you can add any metadata that you want. So you can add geographic location, machine number. We have customers that put what shift and what machine and what shift operator actually created the parts. And so you can put any data that you want in there, be it written, typed out, documented through APIs, etc. And so each individual part could have, for example, where it was made, the date, the factory, the time, the shift, what customer is going to, what ship it's on, and it'll always be connected irrefutably to this part. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you. Answered the question. Appreciate it.
And yeah, this is Matt. I just had a quick question. So what's on the scaling piece? Is there is there a size or, three-dimensional perspective as, you have larger parts or more complex parts? Is that, how does it handle that?
Yeah, right now there's no issue. As long as you can take an image, it works. There are three things we don't do. One is diamonds. The other is complete reflective. The third is complete transparent. The three of those we don't do for the reason of you can't take a good image. A diamond, the reason my wife likes diamonds is no matter how you look at them, they sparkle. The reason is they have a very high refractive rate. And so the light never comes off the same. So an image of a diamond won't come in very well. Same thing if you're taking a picture of a mirror. Are you taking a picture of that mirror or what's being reflected in that mirror? Same thing with complete transparency of glass. Are you taking a picture of the glass or what's behind it? So those three things we don't deal with. Other than that, every material, be it wood, cloth, paper, metal, gold, it doesn't matter, it can be done. And then any size can be done as long as you can take a picture of it. The smallest things we do today are small medical implant nuts and bolts that are put into the body. They're about the size of what you would find in glasses, those small screws on glasses. We do those without a problem. The largest parts we do right now are large car parts on the panels of cars.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, great.
And then a final comment, the key is, as you may have seen or understood, it is camera agnostic. Our technology is purely the software that takes the image, turns it into a digital fingerprint and compares. We can use an iPhone 13, you can use standard industrial cameras. The camera itself doesn't matter.
Fantastic. With that, we conclude our aerospace and defense showcase, including parts 1 and part 2. So thank you everybody who joined. I just want to formally acknowledge our awesome panelists that were here. So hold on just real quickly. I'll show you up on the screen, everybody who was joining us. So we had a fantastic panel. We had Darren Burrell from Veteran Ventures Capital, from Boost VC, Gus Donald had to sign off a little early. From MITRE, Matt McGregor, David Brewer from the United States Air Force, Ian Eishen from United States Air Force, Max Fitzers, also from USAF, Cassandra Carruthers from Upheaval Investments, David Mendelson from HEICO, Donald Gansberg for the USAF, James Bolinger, also from USAF, Rafael Perez from Invest Puerto Rico, Corey Anderson from Radiance Technologies, Juana Paredes from USAF, and also Artyom and Sarah, unfortunately, could not join us. So thank you so much. I just want to also acknowledge the amazing companies we've heard on the defense side. We heard from Monarch, Summer Robotics, Gsi Technology, and Aletheon. And from the aerospace, from Fisna, Temper, American GFN, and Nova Space. So that is all. We conclude both events right now. So if you have any questions about this event, any of the companies want to be connected to them, you can reach out to Brian. Brian will put his email in the chat, and he can connect between the two, or you can directly connect to the companies. Either way is great. And thank you all the presenters, thank you all the panelists, and have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good one.